Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. So today's episode is going to be all about vacation, and that is my life update section too, because all I am doing right now is just trying to get ready for vacation and counting down for vacation, and everything I'm thinking about is about vacation, which is why I wanted to talk about some of the topics that I'm going to cover today. So before I forget to tell you, I just want to let you know that there will not be a meal plan episode this week because I'm not going to be cooking because I will be on vacation. So that's all I kind of have for an update this week. As far as loving lately, the one thing that I was really loving last week was fireflies. I saw my first fireflies outside. I was so excited to see them. There's just something about sitting outside at night in the summer and seeing fireflies. It just really feels like summer, and summer is my favorite season. So I was really excited when I saw them for the first time this year. So I would say loving lately is fireflies. As far as reading, I don't have a full update for this week, but I do want to share. I just finished listening to the book The Caretaker. I described that last week because was just in the middle of listening to it at that time. It's a quick audiobook. If you listen to audiobooks, it was only 6 hours. It's a 4.21 Goodreads rating. I really did like this book, but I thought the ending wrapped up too quickly for me. You know, when you're getting like really close to the end of a book and you're like, how can this possibly all wrap up in such a short amount of time left? That's kind of how the ending felt to me. I just kind of wanted like a little bit more of like a wrap up on how things kind of turned out. But anyway, I did really enjoy the book. So that's that. Right now I am listening to, what the heck is the name of it? My grandmother told me to tell you, she's sorry or something like that. I forget the name of it right now. But I'm going to share that one with you next week because I literally just finished it and I didn't even have a chance to write the information down in my notes. So I will share that one with you next week. At least I will try to. But anyway, so that's that. So my favorite meal this week that I made was Polish sausage and sauerkraut. So usually when I make a meal similar like this, I would use kibasi. But I saw that Costco had this Polish sausage that looked really good. So I decided to give it a try. And it was really good. And it was such a quick meal. I basically just cut up the sausages and heated them up in a frying pan with some sauerkraut. And then I made some lima beans on the side, like I want to say homemade, but they're not. Well, I guess they're homemade. It's like I bought a bag of the dry lima beans, and I made them in the Instant Pot. I followed a recipe. I never made them like that before, but they were really good, and they went well with the Polish sausage and sauerkraut. So that's that. So let's talk about simplifying vacation packing. So I think that the biggest, most important tip for simplifying your vacation packing is to have a really good packing list that you keep saved somewhere that you can totally rely on. Ideally on a computer, somewhere that you can reference, make changes to. Because when you have a good packing list, it's much easier to pack ahead of time. You can check things off so that you know what you've already packed, what you haven't packed yet. It just makes it less stressful because you don't have to sit there trying to mentally remember all the things that you need to pack and make a new list every time. Having a having a list saved on your computer, you can constantly update it after you have a trip. So if you return from a trip and you realize that you forgot something, you can add it to the list and then you won't forget the same thing on future trips. So I like having sections that are weather specific also. Like for example, I wouldn't need sunscreen or bug spray if we were traveling when it's cold. So I just skip those sections of the list if they're not applicable. So depending on the type of travel you do, you can kind of create different sub lists that only relate to maybe certain specific travel so that you know you don't even have to reference those sections if that type of if those type of things that need to be packed aren't relevant to the trip that you're going on. But it just really makes it so much easier to get ready for vacation without worrying that you'll forget something, and it just really simplifies the whole process. I've packed for a quick overnight without my list, thinking that I didn't really need much because we were only going overnight, and then I definitely wished that I had used my list because there was just some very basic, simple things that I totally forgot to bring because I didn't use my list. So definitely that simplifies packing, and I think it's probably the most important thing to have a really good packing list that you kind of, develop over time. Another thing to simplify as far as being able to pack lightly, a little bit more lightly, is to see if the place that you're staying at has laundry facilities. It might cost a little bit extra, but if you're staying for a longer amount of time, it can be easier to do a load of laundry while you're there and not have to pack so much stuff. So consider that if that's a possibility. It can definitely help simplify with packing less and then just doing maybe one load in the middle of your trip. I also like to plan to wear things more than once if you're able to. I know with younger kids, a lot of times it's not possible because they'll get them dirty or they'll get stains or whatever. But I definitely like to wear things more than once. It makes it easy. It makes it easy to pack less. You can mix and match, where if you have like some jeans or things that are kind of basic that can go with other items, that can kind of save too. So definitely consider if you're able to wear things more than once, that can allow you to have to pack less for your trip. I also like to use packing cubes. If you haven't seen them, if you look on Amazon, they're just like these little small, like, I don't know how you describe them. They're kind of like a mesh and they zip up so you can contain different things in them within your suitcase. So you can separate your clothes by person or by type, or they come in like different sizes to make it easier to keep things organized in your suitcase. You could use them, say maybe like to separate shirts or shorts, bathing suits, etc., or you can use them to separate outfits, or like I said, you can separate things by person. It just makes it easier to have things kind of separated in some type of organized way in your suitcase. It makes it easier to find things because you can just pull some of the packs out and get to the one that you're looking for. So I definitely think those have simplified, maybe not even necessarily packing, but at least when you get to the trip, it makes it a lot easier to access your things. You can also consider buying travel size products and extras of certain things to make it easier to pack ahead of time. I buy packages on Amazon of inexpensive toothbrushes. They're just like, I forget, like Colgate or whatever. It's like maybe $5 or $6 for like a 5-pack on Amazon. And then we just use those on our trip and then throw them out afterwards because I keep a travel bag, and obviously you don't want to use a toothbrush and then use the same one again a year later that's been like sitting in a bag that maybe was wet or whatever from when it got packed away. So we just buy those inexpensive ones. We always put one in everyone's bag, and then when we get home, we throw that one away and put a new one in there. That way that's always ready to go. And it just makes it a lot quicker and easier. I recently started trying to keep travel sized shampoo, conditioner, and body wash on hand. That way I can just grab them and throw them into our bag. I used to fill my own bottles, but I decided that the convenience of the travel sized products was just worth the cost to me, because I would sit there and take a long time trying to fill up different little bottles with products, and it was a pain in the neck. And then sometimes I couldn't tell what was what because I would try and write on them with a Sharpie and it would wear off, and it just it wasn't that great for me. And I felt like the travel size products were pretty inexpensive, and I decided to just go with those. So I always keep them and kind of restock them every time we go on a trip. That way the next time we're getting ready to go, I don't have to go out and buy them. I just already have them and can kind of just get our bathroom bags set up. And then another way to kind of simplify is to share items if you can to cut down on the bulk of the items you're packing. Like, for example, I used to pack everyone a little toothpaste in everyone's bag, but then I decided it was just easier to bring one tube that the family can share. I was used to packing everyone separately because we used to go camping a lot and we use like the campground bathrooms, and everyone kind of needed like their own bag to go into the bathroom to brush their teeth or whatever. But this trip we're going to a hotel, so it's like we're all going to be together. There's no reason for everyone to have their own little tooth paste. So things like that, maybe shampoo, conditioner, hair dryer, body lotion, suntan lotion, any of those kind of things, and that you can kind of coordinate with your family so that everyone's not packing those items and you can kind of just try to share. So those are just a few tips, kind of probably like what I find are like the most useful tips to simplify vacation packing. So then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is your vacation budget. So the most important part of being able to stick to your vacation budget is to start with a detailed budget. If you have not created a vacation budget previously, your first one is most likely going to have some things missed, but you'll get better at it each time you do it, and you'll notice things while you're on vacation that you might have forgot to budget for, and then you can modify those budgets for future vacations. So you'll know, like, oh, I wasn't thinking to budget for extra snacks on the way down if we were driving somewhere and we stopped and maybe picked up lunch or snacks or drinks or whatever. Maybe you forgot to plan some extra money for picking up souvenirs or whatever. Every time you go on vacation, you can make notes of things you may have forgotten to budget for, and your budget will get better and better over time because not that your dollars will necessarily be relative depending on where you're going, but once you have the categories down, you can better think about what types of line items you want to include in your budget. And I know that there are some people out there who think sticking to a budget on vacation is a form of deprivation, but I completely disagree with that, because to me, some of the most stressful times in my life have been or at least related to finances, have been while on vacation, spending money that I had no idea if we even had. So knowing that I was going to return home after the vacation and try to figure out how to recover from what we just did was not fun. Having money set aside for a vacation and planning how you're spending that money makes such a huge difference in the way it feels to be on vacation. And it's much more enjoyable to be on a vacation, spending money that you know you have budgeted and spending money you can afford, rather than spending over your limit and then coming home and having to deal with it. So having a detailed budget is going to give you the most success in being able to stick to that budget. So, you might notice that some of these tips are kind of focused more on planning your vacation, but what I'm going to tell you about as far as getting that budget together, but that's kind of that plan for your vacation is kind of what you need to know in order to get your budget detailed. So the first thing you want to do is have decide on an amount for the vacation. So you may already have money set aside for your vacation, and you can create a budget to fit within that amount, or you might be creating a budget to determine how much you'll need to start saving up. So regardless of how you arrive at the amount of money that you're comfortable spending on your vacation, it's important to have a number, or at least a maximum. That'll help guide you in creating your budget and deciding what types of vacations will fit into that budget. I find it easiest to have a rough idea in mind of the amount that we're going to budget, and then start by pricing everything out to arrive at our final budget. Then I can look to see how much we already have saved, and if we need to save more, or if we even might need to postpone the trip because it's something we can't afford yet once I kind of get all the prices and costs down. Or maybe we might have to modify how we're going to do the trip. Maybe we cut back in some areas to be able to still do the trip, but maybe not as with less spending than what we had originally anticipated. So I find that researching a destination is probably one of the most important parts of planning your vacation, and then along with that, how that leads into your budget. Because especially if you're going to an area known for tourism, there will be a big variety of activities you can do during your trip. And by doing research ahead of time, you can make educated decisions on what things you'd like to do on your trip and what the cost of those different activities are. It can sometimes be difficult to make these decisions while you're on vacation because you can end up dealing with the fear of missing out. But if you take the time to research what's available ahead of time, including reading reviews, you can make your best judgment on what would be most enjoyable to you on your vacation, and then you can budget for that appropriately. You don't want to end up spending a huge chunk of your vacation budget while you're on your trip and then discover the next day that there were other things you would have rather done with that money. So you'll either possibly end up doing those things anyway and blowing your budget, or you might end up being disappointed in your choices. So of course, there's no guarantee that you're going to love everything that you choose to do on your trip, but if you plan ahead for the things that you really want to do and know in advance how much they're going to cost, that'll really help you stay within your vacation budget. Another way you can make sure you stick to your vacation budget or even bring the cost down is to find some free or lower cost activities. Most vacation locations have some things that you can do that cost little to no money. This might be strolling the downtown area if you're not prone to impulse shopping, maybe visiting a local park that maybe has really great scenery. Many of the national parks have ranger-led walks that are completely free. Those ranger-led walks were some of the highlights of our trip when we've done them with my family. They're informative, entertaining, and they're free. So that's just kind of an example. But if you take some time before you go, or while you're planning your budget or planning your trip, just kind of look around to see what types of free things you can do in that area. There's usually websites that'll list different free activities, or there's Facebook groups. There's lots of different ways that you can kind of find that information out as you're planning your trip. You also want to have a plan for food, because unfortunately, with all the planning in the world, the cost of eating on vacation is an unavoidable one. The cost can range anywhere from very low budget with cooking at the location you're staying at, if that's possible, all the way up to eating at expensive restaurants for each meal. We usually do some combination of the two. When we go camping, I don't mind cooking some simple meals in our camper while the family's hanging out at the campground, but I realize that the thought of cooking anything while on vacation can be very off-putting to some. So we all get to decide how we want to spend money on food while we're on our vacation. But if we want to stick to the budget, it's really important to have a plan for how we will feed ourselves each day. If eating out includes restaurants, looking up those restaurants in advance and getting an idea of the menu prices beforehand can really help you set a budget for how much you expect to spend on food. It can also give you an opportunity to make different choices that do fit within your budget. There's nothing worse than sitting down at a table for a meal to see that nothing on the menu is even remotely in your price range. So researching places to eat and estimating the cost ahead of time can really help you create a realistic budget for your meals, and to also help you make choices of restaurants that fit within that budget that you've decided on. Of course, you don't have to stick to exactly each restaurant on certain nights, but if you have a handful of restaurants to choose from that are in your budget, you can at least choose from places that won't cause you to overspend. And then some other budget categories that you want to include when you're putting your budget together. Of course, is lodging. Like, where are you staying? Is it an Airbnb? Is it a hotel? Are there other costs involved in it? Like, some places charge you for parking. You, of course, want to budget for gas and other travel expenses, eating on the road, anything else you might need to get to your destination, souvenirs, and then, of course, miscellaneous. It's nice to have a little bit of extra to cover little things that usually end up popping up on vacation. Even if it's something as simple as stopping to get everyone ice cream while you're walking through town, you always want to try to have a little bit extra, because you are on vacation and you know something's going to come up that you might want to spend a little bit of extra money on. You also do want to, though, be prepared to make cuts. Once you've done your research and listed out the estimated cost of your vacation, you might find that it comes to a bit more than you had planned to spend. And this is where you have the opportunity to make some changes to get back to the amount you had planned on. Doing this at home before your vacation makes it so much easier to make thoughtful decisions about what you're willing to give up, because it's no fun to have to make these decisions while you're on vacation. And sometimes when we're in vacation mode, it's much harder to make these choices. So by being able to take the time to think through what's most important will allow you to have a much nicer vacation, where you're not going to be sitting there trying to figure out what you can cut out at the last minute.
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously, and 6'1" since that matters, and what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble, with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
And then, besides the fact of needing to have a budget to begin with. I find that the biggest tip that helps me stay within my vacation budget is to track my expenses daily. Just like I say with my regular budget, I track my expenses daily, or at least as close to daily as possible. But I find, especially on vacation, tracking my expenses daily really, really helps stay within my budget. If you've gone and done all the work to get this great vacation budget together, you don't want to wind up overspending because you're not tracking what you're spending money on while you're on the vacation. So I use an app where I can log our expenses as they occur. It's just called Budget. It's just like a very, very basic app. I don't pay for the whatever the upgraded version. So I think I have like maybe 3 or 4 categories that I can track, but I just have like food, miscellaneous, I think I have gas, whatever. I have like a couple of categories. And every time we spend money, I literally just put it in right at that time. If we're at the gas station, I put it in then. If we're at a restaurant, as soon as we get our bill, I put it in right then. By tracking it right away, you can see how much you've spent so far and how much you have left. And by doing that, you can kind of see where you're at so far in your budget. So if you did overdo it one day, maybe the next day you cut back a little bit, or maybe your restaurant meal costs a little bit more than you expected, you can choose to do pizza the next day. Whatever choices you make, updating your budget each day really allows you to see how you're tracking to the budget, so you can make adjustments along the way rather than get back after a vacation and realize that you spent way more than you expected to. So if you update it at least once a day, you're definitely going to be less likely to forget something that you spent money on, and you won't be surprised when the time comes to kind of record all of those expenses that happened on the vacation. So those are my tips for vacation packing and sticking to your vacation budget. I hope these were helpful to you. I will be doing a quick episode next week, I think probably just about the vacation, just to give you guys a quick update on our vacation and how it went, because I'm going to be on vacation, so I'm not going to have time to record. Otherwise, I'll do a quick episode when we return. And like I said, no meal plan next week because I won't be cooking. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week. Or not next. Yeah, it will be next week. Sorry, it will be next week. It'll just be a quick vacation episode. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you back here next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.